Marketing consultant Linda Morrison took her cell phone out of her bag and sighed. The screen showed 3 missed calls and an urgent email from a client. Tomorrow's meeting has been moved up. Please review the important materials tonight. She looked at her watch. 4 in the afternoon. Only an hour left until she needed to pick up Sophia from after-school care. Normally she would contact her trusted babysitter Carol, but Carol had gone back to her hometown this week because of her mother's surgery. What a predicament. Linda scrolled through the numbers of other sitters, but no one was available on such short notice. As a last resort, she called her mother. Martha's sharp voice resonated on the other end of the phone. What is it, Linda? How unusual to hear from you in the middle of a weekday. It's an emergency. A big presentation for tomorrow has been moved up to tonight. Could you watch Sophia overnight? After a moment of silence, Martha made a sound like a snort. Being a career woman is difficult, isn't it? In my day, we never would have considered leaving children behind for work. Linda closed her eyes and suppressed the urge to argue. Since her divorce 3 years ago, her mother's sarcasm had only increased. Please, Mom. I don't have anyone else to ask. Yes, of course I'll take her. Actually, Heather and her children are coming over today too. Sophia will enjoy playing with her cousins. Anxiety spread through Linda's chest. Her relationship with her sister Heather was complicated. From childhood, Heather had always been jealous of Linda's possessions and successes. Especially after the divorce, Heather's hostility toward Linda for being successful despite being a single mother was impossible to hide. Heather too. I see, Linda replied, choosing her words carefully. Her children, Noah and Ava, as well. Yes, we're planning a lovely dinner together. Martha's voice contained delight. Linda knew how much her mother enjoyed the opportunity to emphasize Linda's defects as a divorcee in front of Heather's perfect family. All right. I'll bring Sophia by 6. After hanging up, Linda took a deep breath. Going to her parents' house was a psychological burden, especially when her sister was there. Mom, why am I staying at Grandma's house tonight? Sophia questioned from the back seat of the car. Curiosity shone in the 8-year-old girl's large brown eyes. Because Mommy has unexpected work and will be late. I'll pick you up in the morning, Linda smiled through the rearview mirror. You don't mind, do you? Sophia pursed her lips thoughtfully. Grandpa is nice, but Grandma always wants to fix my clothes. She says leggings aren't proper. Linda couldn't help but laugh. Sophia had perfectly mimicked her grandmother's old-fashioned values. Yes, Grandma has somewhat outdated ideas. And if Cousin Noah is coming? Sophia's voice grew quieter. Linda immediately became alert. Is something wrong with Noah? Not really. Sophia gazed out the window. But he always makes fun of me. Last month, he pulled my hair at the birthday party too. Did he really? Linda frowned. Next time something happens, tell Grandpa or me right away. Understand? Sophia nodded, but her expression remained clouded. When they arrived at her parents' house, the front door opened and Heather greeted them with perfect hair and a smile. Finally, you're here. Sophia, your cousins are waiting for you. Sophia nervously let go of her mother's hand and went inside. When Linda tried to hand over the bags, Heather drew back slightly, as if creating an invisible wall. You seem to be struggling, Linda, Heather's voice contained fake sympathy. Balancing career and parenting. I could never imagine leaving my children behind. I believe a mother's presence is irreplaceable. Linda ignored this intentional barb. Thank you. Please look after Sophia. I'll pick her up tomorrow. Martha's voice called from inside the house. Linda, aren't you coming in? At least have some tea before you go. Sorry, Mom. I don't have time, Linda answered from the doorstep. Give my regards to Dad. On her way back to the car, Linda turned around and spotted Sophia's small silhouette standing by the second-floor window. She waved and smiled reassuringly. As the meeting room door closed, Linda exhaled deeply. The presentation had been a success. The creative director patted her shoulder lightly and said, "That was excellent, Linda. This campaign will move the company forward significantly." She smiled and expressed her thanks, but in her mind, she was already thinking about Sophia. Looking at her watch, it was 11:15 in the morning. Relieved that it had ended earlier than expected, she immediately began gathering her things. "You seem to be in a hurry," her colleague Jennifer remarked with a smile. "Yes, I need to pick up my daughter," Linda replied while stuffing documents into her bag. "I left her at my parents' house last night." "With your mother?" Jennifer gave her a meaningful look. She knew about Linda's complicated relationship with her mother. "Was everything all right?" "I don't know yet," Linda answered honestly. "I'm on my way to pick her up now." As she left the office, the spring sunshine wrapped her in warmth. With the joy of success and the relief of seeing her daughter soon, her heart felt lighter. Getting into her car and heading toward her parents' house, she began planning to take Sophia to the park, trying to make up for having to be apart for the night because of work. When she parked in front of her parents' large white house in the distinguished Beacon Hill neighborhood, a strange uneasiness passed through Linda's chest. Normally at this time, her father Harold would be tending to plants in the garden, but the garden was silent. When she rang the doorbell, after a slight pause, her mother Martha appeared. Linda noticed that her usually perfectly arranged hair was slightly disheveled. "Oh, Linda. It would have been nice if you'd let us know you were coming so early," Martha's voice had a slight tension to it. The presentation ended earlier than planned. Linda passed by her mother and entered the house. "Where's Sophia?" "She's resting in the upstairs guest room," Martha answered with slight hesitation. "She seems a bit tired." "Tired?" Linda frowned. "What time did she go to bed last night?" "The usual time," Martha answered rather quickly. "It's just that the children were playing until late." Linda's father Harold appeared from the living room. His usually mild face had an expression that Linda couldn't read. "Linda, you're here," he said quietly. "The presentation went well, I gather." "Yes, Dad," Linda answered briefly and headed toward the stairs. "I'm going to see Sophia." As she climbed the stairs, she sensed something off about her parents' behavior. They seemed to have something they wanted to say but didn't. When she knocked on the guest room door, there was no answer. She opened it gently and found Sophia sitting on the bed, gazing out the window. "Sophia, Mommy's here to pick you up." The girl turned around slowly, but she didn't come running with her usual smile. In her large brown eyes, there was something Linda had never seen before. "What's wrong, honey?" Linda approached her daughter and placed a hand on her shoulder. "Did you have fun?" "With Grandma and everyone." Sophia remained silent, her lips trembling slightly. "Did you play with Aunt Heather and your cousins?" Linda asked gently, but felt her daughter's body stiffen. "I want to go home," Sophia finally said in a small voice. Feeling concerned about her daughter's demeanor, Linda began packing her things. "Of course. Let's go home right now." Before they left the room, Martha was waiting for them outside the door. "Leaving already?" "I prepared lunch." "Thanks, Mom. But we're going home," Linda said firmly. "Sophia seems tired too." "I see." Martha looked at her granddaughter and reached out to touch her cheek, but Sophia shied away, hiding behind her mother. A flash of surprise appeared in Martha's eyes. "Sophia, aren't you going to say to Grandma?" The girl remained silent, staring at the floor. "Sophia," Linda gently prompted. "Say to Grandma and Grandpa." Sophia said faintly, but didn't look up. Harold saw them off at the bottom of the stairs. "Take care on your way back," his voice had an unusual softness to it, and in his eyes as he looked at his granddaughter there was something like guilt. As they got into the car and left her parents' house, Linda looked at Sophia in the rearview mirror. The girl was silently gazing out the window. "Are you really okay? Did something happen?" Linda asked calmly. There was no answer. "Sophia, I can't understand if you don't talk to me," Linda's voice grew more concerned. "Did something happen with your cousins?" Tears welled up in the girl's eyes and quietly slid down her cheeks. However, she still remained silent. When they got home, Sophia immediately tried to go to her room, but Linda gently stopped her. "Honey, let's change your clothes. Then can we talk a little?" Sophia didn't resist and let her mother lead her to the living room. Linda began to undress her. Though normally Sophia could do this herself, today she was expressionless like a doll and wouldn't move on her own. While unbuttoning her blouse, Linda suddenly felt something strange. There were several small brown stains on the lining of the clothes. Looking closer, they appeared to be dried blood. "What's this?" Linda gasped, slowly lifting the clothing. There were definitely small traces of blood. "Sophia, what happened to this? Did someone hurt you?" Panic raced through her body, and her voice trembled. "What happened? Tell me, please." Large tears flowed again from Sophia's eyes. She just shook her head and wouldn't speak. Anger and fear swirled in Linda's chest. She stood up and took her cell phone. While dialing her mother's number, her voice was cold and determined. "Mom, there's blood on Sophia's clothes. What happened? Tell me honestly." There was a moment of silence on the other end, and then Martha's disturbed voice came through. "My, you're being dramatic. She probably just fell. Children fall all the time, don't they?" "Fell?" Linda's voice rose. "Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't anyone tell me?" "Because..." Martha's voice faltered. "I didn't think it was anything serious." Linda looked at Sophia. Her face showed unspeakable fear and sadness. Maternal instinct told her this was not just a fall. "We'll talk later," Linda said coldly and hung up. She knelt before Sophia and gently took her hands. "Honey, it's Mommy's job to protect you. Let's go to the hospital now. It'll be all right, I'll be with you." The fear in Sophia's eyes intensified, but she gave a slight nod. Linda hugged her daughter and rubbed her back, inwardly vowing to uncover the truth and hold whoever hurt her daughter accountable. She grabbed her car keys and cradled Sophia, wrapping her in a jacket. With her heart nearly bursting with worry and anger, Linda gripped the steering wheel tightly. At the reception desk of St. Mary's Pediatric Emergency Center sat a middle-aged woman who immediately composed herself upon seeing them. "What brings you in today?" "My daughter." Linda faltered. She didn't know how to explain. "There's blood on her clothes, and she won't talk about it. She stayed with my parents and sister yesterday." The receptionist nodded understandingly and handed her some forms. "Please fill these out. We'll see her right away." The waiting room was nearly empty. Linda sat with Sophia on her lap, filling out forms while occasionally glancing at her daughter's face. Sophia remained expressionless, clutching a teddy bear in both arms, an emergency comfort toy Linda always kept in the car. "Ms. Morrison?" A nurse called their name. "This way, please." They were led to a small examination room. The walls were decorated with brightly colored animal pictures, designed to make children less afraid. However, even this gentle atmosphere couldn't break Sophia's silence. After the nurse completed basic tests, she said, "The doctor will be with you shortly," and left the room. Linda sat next to Sophia and held her hand. "It's going to be okay, honey. No matter what, Mommy is on your side." There was a knock on the door, and a doctor entered. Her name tag read, Dr. Caroline Foster. "Hello, Ms. Morrison," Dr. Foster said in a calm voice. "And this must be Sophia." She squatted in front of Sophia, speaking at the child's eye level. "Hello, Sophia. What brings you in today?" Sophia remained silent, unwilling to look at the doctor's face. Dr. Foster looked up at Linda, raising her eyebrows questioningly. "I left my daughter overnight with my parents and sister," Linda began explaining. "When I picked her up this morning, she was withdrawn." She lowered her voice so Sophia couldn't hear. "There were bloodstains on the lining of her clothes, and she won't talk about what happened." The doctor nodded with a serious expression. "Sophia, would it be all right if I talk with your mother for a moment? There are some nice toys in the waiting room. Nurse Sarah will stay with you." Sophia looked at Linda. her eyes mixed with fear and pleading. Linda gently touched her daughter's cheek. "It's okay. I'll be right there." After the nurse took Sophia out of the room, Dr. Foster sat across from Linda. Her expression maintained professional calm while still showing warmth. "Have you noticed anything else? Any changes in your daughter's behavior, or signs that she's in pain anywhere?" Linda shook her head. "No, nothing until I picked her up this morning. My parents seemed a bit off. Mother said she was just tired, but father seemed like he wanted to say something." "I understand," the doctor said while taking notes. "I'll examine your daughter, but before that, I have a few questions for you. How is your relationship with your family?" "It's complicated," Linda answered honestly. "I divorced 3 years ago, and my mother is critical of my career choices and parenting. With my sister Heather, we've been competitive since childhood, and she's jealous of me. Yesterday, she and her 2 children were at my parents' house as well." The doctor looked up, meeting Linda's eyes directly. "How is your daughter's relationship with her cousins?" "Not good," Linda exhaled. "Especially my sister's son, Noah. I heard he pulled Sophia's hair before." The doctor considered this for a few seconds, then said, "Let's examine Sophia," and stood up. The time in the waiting room seemed eternal. Linda repeatedly glanced at the clock, fidgeting restlessly. An hour later, Dr. Foster returned. Her expression was severe, her mouth set firmly. "Let's talk in my office." The doctor's office was small but warm. Children's drawings decorated the walls, and family photos sat on the desk. But now, the air in the room was heavy and tense. "Where's Sophia?" Linda asked anxiously. "She's in the playroom with a nurse." Dr. Foster sat down and took a deep breath. "Ms. Morrison, your daughter shows signs of physical abuse." Those words delivered a dull shock to Linda's chest. "What?" "There are multiple bruises on her arms and back. The blood on her clothes comes from a small cut on her back. This wound doesn't appear to be accidental but looks as if it was deliberately inflicted with something sharp." The color drained from Linda's face. In her mind, anger, fear, and guilt swirled. "Are you saying my family hurt her?" "Legally, I'm obligated to report this to Child Protective Services, but first I want to understand the situation." Dr. Foster was choosing her words carefully. "Sophia has spoken a little. It took a lot of courage for her." Linda covered her face with trembling hands. "What happened?" "According to Sophia, there was a dispute over toys with her cousins last night," the doctor began explaining quietly. "At first, it seems it was normal children's quarreling, but a boy named Noah became aggressive and pushed her down. A girl named Ava joined in, and together they held Sophia down." The doctor continued, choosing her words. "They pinched and scratched her while saying things like, 'Your mom is a failure,' and 'It's sad you don't have a daddy.'" Tears welled in Linda's eyes. "That's terrible." Even more shocking, Dr. Foster continued in a heavy tone, "Your sister Heather apparently witnessed this bullying but didn't stop it. Instead, she blamed Sophia, saying, 'This wouldn't have happened if you had been quiet.'" Linda was shaking. Her body felt ice cold with anger and the fear running down her spine. "And?" The doctor hesitated for a moment, then continued. "When Noah took her stuffed animal and began cutting it with scissors, Sophia tried to get it back, and in the process, the scissors apparently caught her back. Whether it was intentional or not, I can't say." "Intentional or not, that's abuse," Linda's voice trembled. "Why didn't my parents stop it?" "They were apparently in another room," Dr. Foster answered. "And what concerns me most is that Heather told Sophia, 'If you talk about this, your mom will be even sadder,' essentially silencing her." Something broke inside Linda. She couldn't suppress the sob that rose from the back of her throat. "My daughter endured this alone." Dr. Foster placed her hand over Linda's. "Ms. Morrison, you've done nothing wrong. You're being there for your daughter now." Linda wiped her tears and raised her face. "What should I do now?" "I'll contact Child Protective Services," the doctor said firmly. "A social worker will make a home visit and assess the situation. We'll submit a detailed report." "And my family?" That's your decision, the doctor said cautiously. But this isn't just bullying, it's serious abuse. Action is needed to protect your child. Linda took a deep breath and closed her eyes. The doctor's words resonated within her. Action to protect your child, that was her most basic responsibility as a mother. I want to see Sophia, she said resolutely. When she entered the playroom, Sophia was drawing at a small table. As Linda approached, the girl looked up, and in her eyes was fear but also a slight glimmer of hope. Mommy. It was the first word she had spoken since morning. Linda knelt before her daughter and carefully embraced her. Honey, thank you for telling everything. You were brave. Are you angry? Sophia's voice was thin. I'm not angry at you at all, Linda looked into her daughter's eyes and said seriously. I'm angry at the people who hurt you. Mommy is always on your side. I'll protect you, I promise. Sophia's small body trembled in her mother's arms, and finally, she began to cry aloud. It was a cry that mixed fear, sadness, and relief. Will this be enough? Linda stared at the photos and documents spread across the kitchen table. Samantha Raines, a social worker dispatched from Child Protective Services, was carefully organizing the paperwork. It's sufficient, Samantha looked at Linda with kindness while maintaining her professional composure. Dr. Foster's diagnosis, photographic evidence, and Sophia's testimony record. These are very clear. Immediately after returning from the hospital, Linda had left Sophia with her trusted friend Jessica. Jessica had been a constant support since her divorce. Sophia was playing with Jessica's daughter Emily, spending time in a safe environment. What's the next step? Linda asked, feigning calmness. Though anger continued to burn inside her, she was trying to suppress her emotions in front of the professional and proceed logically. First, we'll initiate a formal investigation, Samantha explained. Your child's safety is the top priority. We'll also interview the alleged perpetrators. I intend to confront my family, Linda said determinedly. Samantha raised an eyebrow. Before you do that, I recommend seeking legal advice. If you become too emotional. How can I not be emotional? Linda's voice rose slightly. But don't worry. I'll just present the evidence and hold them accountable. After thinking for a while, Samantha nodded. I understand. However, I don't recommend going alone. I've asked a lawyer friend to accompany me, Linda replied. Tomorrow afternoon, I'll confront them at my parents' house. The next afternoon, Linda stood in front of her parents' house with her friend and lawyer, Mark Johnson. Ready? Mark placed his hand on her shoulder. Linda took a deep breath. Yes. Let's go. Harold opened the door. His face looked tired, and his expression clouded upon seeing Linda. Linda. Dad, we need to talk, Linda said calmly. Call Mom and Heather too. When they entered the living room, Martha was already sitting on the sofa. She frowned upon seeing Linda and Mark. Bringing a lawyer seems excessive. Call Heather, Linda said, ignoring her mother's sarcasm. 15 minutes later, Heather arrived. She was clearly irritated and began complaining as soon as she entered the room. What's this about, calling me so suddenly? I had to leave the children with a sitter. Sit down, Linda's voice was ice cold. When everyone was gathered, Linda placed an envelope on the table. These are Dr. Foster's diagnosis and photos of the injuries on Sophia's body. She took out the photos and spread them on the table. Bruises on her back and arms, and a cut on her back. According to the doctor, these are not accidental but the result of deliberate violence. The color drained from Martha and Harold's faces. Heather crossed her arms, feigning indifference. Sophia told us everything, Linda continued. Your children, Noah and Ava, held her down, took her stuffed animal, and hurt her. And Heather, you saw it, but not only did you not stop it, you blamed Sophia and told her to keep quiet. That's ridiculous. Heather raised her voice. Exaggerating children's quarrels. Be quiet. Linda's angry voice echoed through the room. This is not a quarrel. It's abuse. Child Protective Services shares this view. Harold picked up the photos with trembling hands. I didn't know, his voice was shaking. I heard commotion upstairs, but. Did you try to stop it? Linda stared at her father. Harold silently shook his head. Heather said, it's just kids being kids. Don't shift blame. Heather shouted at her father. You're just as guilty. Yes, everyone bears responsibility, Linda said calmly. But Heather, what I can't forgive most is that not only did you fail to stop your children's behavior, you told Sophia to keep quiet. For a moment, something like guilt flashed across Heather's face, but it quickly returned to a defensive expression. You're always perfect, successful in both career and parenting even after divorce. I'm desperate every day. No one understands my struggles. Those words hung heavily in the room. That's no reason for Sophia to be victimized, Linda said firmly. I'm prepared to take legal measures for Sophia's safety. Martha began to cry. Surely you're not going to sue your own family? No, not a lawsuit, Mark began the legal explanation. A formal investigation by Child Protective Services and restricted contact under supervision. Also, counseling will be necessary for Heather and her children. So you won't let us see her anymore? Martha's voice mixed anger and sadness. Sophia's safety and well-being are the top priority. Linda stood up and placed both hands on the table. Family is supposed to protect each other. You not only failed to protect Sophia, you hurt her. I cannot forgive this. She took a deep breath and continued. From now on, Sophia and I will be keeping our distance for a while. And Heather, your children should also receive professional counseling. Such violent behavior must have a cause somewhere. Heather fell silent, appearing truly disturbed for the first time. No excuses, Linda interrupted her. I will do what's necessary to protect Sophia. Even if you are family. Linda and Mark stood up, preparing to leave the room. As they headed toward the door, Linda turned back. True family isn't just about blood ties. It's about trust, respect, and love. Someday, if you understand that and truly show remorse, there may be room for discussion again. But for now, protecting Sophia is my only responsibility. After she left, a heavy silence remained in the house. 6 months later, on a Saturday morning, Linda's apartment was bathed in sunlight. The sweet scent of pancakes wafted from the kitchen, and Sophia's laughter echoed from the living room. Mom, look. I finished it. Sophia proudly held up a drawing spread out on the table. It showed colorful people. This is a picture of my new family. Linda smiled as she approached while plating pancakes. The drawing was titled, My Chosen Family, and depicted Sophia and Linda, her friend Jessica and her daughter Emily, and Sophia's therapist Laura. It's a beautiful drawing, Linda gently stroked her daughter's hair. Since that day, their lives had changed dramatically. The first few weeks were difficult. Sophia was plagued by nightmares, and Linda was tossed by waves of guilt and anger. But with twice-weekly therapy sessions and the help of a newly found support group for families overcoming trauma, they had begun to walk the path of healing step by step. We're going to the beach with Emily this afternoon, right? Sophia asked with a mouthful of pancakes. Her voice and expression had regained their former vibrancy. Yes, Jessica will pick us up, Linda answered. But before that, there's something I want to talk about. What? Sophia looked up at her mother with curious eyes. Grandpa sent a letter, Linda said carefully. He wants to see you. Sophia's expression clouded. I'm scared. I won't force you, Linda held her daughter's hand. But Grandpa seems to be truly remorseful. He's been going to therapy for the past 6 months. After the incident, Harold had begun to reconsider his relationship with Martha. Having followed his wife's domineering attitude for years, he had finally found his voice and decided to participate in family therapy. His letter contained an apology to his granddaughter and a wish to see her someday if she could forgive him. I'll think about it, Sophia answered quietly. Meanwhile, there was no sign of reconciliation with Heather. She had accepted the legal measures and was ordered to perform community service and undergo mandatory counseling. Her custody of the children was under review, and her relationship with her husband had deteriorated. Linda occasionally received progress reports on her from Child Protective Services but understood that real change would take a long time. Today is a special day, Linda changed the subject. A day to celebrate our new beginning. In fact, today Linda had just finalized the contract for a new apartment. It was in a better school district, a quiet environment suitable for Sophia's recovery. And she herself had started working smoothly at a new workplace. Cheers! Sophia raised her glass of orange juice. Linda joined with her coffee cup. To our new beginning. The sunlight streaming through the window wrapped them in warmth. Not all the pain of the past had disappeared. There would still be difficulties to overcome. But Linda knew that true strength isn't about avoiding hardships but facing them. And true family isn't formed by blood ties but by protecting, respecting, and loving each other. Her decision had been a harsh one, but it was the greatest expression of love for her daughter. And now, that decision was beginning to bring new light to them. Watching Sophia's smile, Linda whispered in her heart, "This is true love."